last journal entry with him. Too modest a man to take credit for his good deeds while he was still alive, but he hoped that someone would learn the tale someday. What? Oh, you don't want to know what those savages from Vault 22 did to those other settlers. Like I said, it was an atrocity, and Mr. Clark avenged it. What they did is considered a crime against nature by most people. They do that kind of thing all over the wasteland. Some fight against the impulse, while others embrace it, try to control it. But that is a story for another day.
Before we begin this episode of The Adventures of Captain Cosmos, we've got a message from the fine folks at Pulaski Preservation Services, purveyors of products there when you actually need them. Seems there's been a lot of talk these days about vault life, but not all of us have the luxury to spend so much on something that, frankly, we may not actually need. Unlike those other guys, the sensible folks at Pulaski Preservation Services have created an affordable line of personal protection products to make sure no one gets left behind. Personal protection, there when you actually need it. Remember, that's Pulaski Preservation Shelters. Simply there when you actually need them. Exact change only. And now on to our show, The Adventures of Captain Cosmos, co-starring Jangles, the Moon Monkey.
The New Vegas Strip is known for gambling, chems, and leggy showgirls. Most people see it as a pleasure pit for the lowest of humanity's urges. But the fellow who runs the town is hoping to appeal to a more sophisticated crowd, too. The Ultralux caters to tourists who want a taste of the sweet life. The casino has roulette and blackjack, but the real gambling happens in the restaurant, where they're uninhibited chefs. But that is a story for another day.
In a world ruled by swords, sorcery, and savages, one man became a legend. From the pages of the world's most popular comic book to the screen of your local drive-in comes Grognak, a warrior from the land of Prehistoria, embarks on an adventure beyond your wildest fantasies. Warrior, destroyer, conqueror. He is Grognak the Barbarian, featuring Zane Valoric as Scopocalypse, Vera Keys as Femra, and introducing Howard Braunschweiger as Grognak the Barbarian. Coming to a theater near you, Thanksgiving weekend 2077.
Whoa there, Edna. Calm down. I know you're not a fan of the little ones, but that was uncalled for. Sorry about that, kid. Alright, I think I have a story or two in me. Out here in the West, most places have some form of law enforcement. Back to the beginning. Whether it's an army of Securitrons, a few men and women with badges, or a hard-working sheriff. In the East, the capital wasteland doesn't have much government. Each little town has its own law. Most of them hire a mercenary to help keep the peace. But sometimes that isn't enough, and folk have to take the law into their own hands. As far back as 400 years ago, the dime novels and comic books told tales of masked vigilantes who fought for justice and righted wrongs. Eventually, it wasn't enough for these fictional characters to wear a mask. These superheroes needed crazy costumes and superhuman powers to fight crime. The superheroes fell out of favor over time, replaced by tales of barbarians, spacemen, and heroic soldiers. But Companies like Hubris Comics kept printing the funny books until Armageddon came. Among the Hubris lineup was Grognak the Barbarian.
Grognak.
We may have some...
Modern readers know Grognak is a source of handy tips on sword fighting, but if you look past the action scenes, there are some good stories and characters hidden between the ads for X-ray glasses. One of his old enemies was the Antagonizer, a femme fatale who commanded an army of ants. And hundreds of years after that issue was published, a young girl in the town of Canterbury Commons must have come across that very book and taken it to heart. That's a story for another day.
The third rail is notable for its booze and live music. But for those new to the Commonwealth, be warned that you're residing in Good Neighbor, a hub for crooked triggermen and chem addicts. Enjoy your stay, but enjoy your stay with a gun handy.
I always feel sorry for the ferals. Go crazy, and the only cure is 45 caliber brain surgery.
What you admire, the clothes or the man wearing them?
It's rough, even before they go feral. Little perks like living forever don't make up for the rest of it. Some of the first ghouls are still alive today. Been like that for 200 years and haven't gone feral yet. They all wonder if their clock is ticking. Makes them a little cranky. The Vault Dweller ran into a few of the grouchy ones back in 2162. Necropolis. It was called Bakersfield before the war. Not a big town, but big enough to get its own vault.
Charlie serves the drinks.
Although Vault 12 was actually one of Vault-Tech's little pranks. It was designed to keep its inhabitants alive through a nuclear war and filter out most of the radiation afterwards. Wasteland is a much bigger place than it seems.
Traffic is terrible and getting worse every day. Go Metro. Avoid pollution, congestion. It's the smart way. Remember, on Sundays, everyone rides free. And now, meet the Metro Protectron.
Tickets, please.
Metro's newest answer to your commuting calamity.
Tickets, please.
He's programmed for speed, efficiency, and friendliness.
Good morning. It's a great day.
See why the Metro Protectron makes your commute faster and safer.
Tickets, please.
But that is a story for another day.
I'm a doctor.
I'm a housewife. I'm a vault warranty inspector. I don't know what I'm gonna be.
Now, finding your future is easy with the Generalized Occupational Aptitude Test.
Get a job that sticks.
See how easy it is.
Find your new career.
Fantastic. I'll never get that 5 minutes back. Enjoy your drink. Well, what do you know? Found you little fuckers. Well, okay then. Let's do this.
Cram! It's the mystery meat with a different taste adventure in every bite. Is it pork? Chicken? Beef? You never know with Cram. Cram is made with parts of real animals just like the ones you see on farms. And it's processed with advanced meat recovery methods only possible with state-of-the-art slaughtertrons. It's good enough for our boys on the front line, so it must be good enough for your kids at home. Every box contains 20 grams of protein and a free Captain Cosmos decoder ring. Cram! Cram some down your gullet today.
I've been tracking you down, from one end of the Mojave to the other, from Zion to the Long 15, and now you're gonna tell me everything about Nuka-Cola. What is it made of? Where does it come from? Why is it so delicious and refreshing? Why can't I stop drinking it? And most importantly, why does my pee glow in the dark when I drink that blue soda? Start talking.
Glow-in-the-dark urine, halitosis, mild irritability. Yep, I've seen these symptoms before. Son, I'm afraid you got yourself addicted to Nuka-Cola Quantum. The regular Nuka-Cola is mighty habit-forming, but that Quantum is bad stuff, and you aren't the only one who's developed a hankering for it. Folk all over the wasteland are chasing the blue fairy, as they say. Unfortunately for you, Nuka-Cola Quantum is awful hard to come by in these parts.
What were you doing here? Why were you sneaking around this factory in the middle of the night?
I was telling Edna about the chem fiends who live in this area. Figured I'd grab myself some sarsaparilla and play a game of lucky horseshoes with my pal Festus.
And you're here to challenge old Festus to a game of lucky horseshoes? Say, I feel lucky.
You know more about quantum soda than you're letting on. Tell me everything about Sunset Sarsaparilla, or none of us are getting out of here alive.
I do know a little more about soda pop, but that's a story for the immediate future.
Meet Joe. Joe is a new recruit in the United States Army, and like any dutiful American, he wishes to serve his country by shooting up the bad guys. Do we throw Joe on the front lines and hope he figures it out himself? Mother... Nonsense. That would be a waste of a perfectly good suit of power armor. Through the use of taxpayer money, and with the aid from what the eggheads are calling virtual reality, Joe can break the chains of his physical form and experience war from the comfort of a cozy pod. Into the pod steps a starry-eyed American, and out comes a killing machine, a defender of liberty, a guardian of democracy. Now Joe's a true American hero, and you can be too. Enlist in the United States Army and experience virtual reality today.
Change comes to all nations. In the early 20th century, the great powers of the old world thought that their rule would never end. The Tsars of Russia met their downfall at the hands of a bloody revolution. Western Europe fought a great war against fascists who sought to build a Reich that would last 1,000 years. It crumbled in less than a decade. The Japanese believed their imperial rule was eternal, yet they were the first to have their pride seared away by atomic fire. The United States of America emerged as the world's great power by the 1950s. Vast nuclear arsenals ensured that open warfare was a thing of the past, and soon after, America entered a Cold War with their enemies. It was a long, uneasy peace, a perpetual status quo as though the world were freeze-dried and sealed in a vault for a century. Those wandering the wasteland today might find it hard to believe that only 200 years ago, the richest nation in the world existed here. No death claws, no super mutants. Knowing how people lived before the war can help the wasteland tremendously. Scavengers and research teams dig up all sorts of things that can't be identified. Any rusty old box could hold an ancient secret to providing clean water, or fresh food, or limitless electricity to the wasteland. At the very least, the modern world could learn from the mistakes of the past. The Americans never truly believed that their way of life could come to such an abrupt end. But change comes to all nations, to all people, all ways of life. The only constant in man's struggle for survival is war. Because war never changes.
This presentation brought to you by Vault-Tec. Congratulations on receiving the all-clear signal. You are now authorized to exit your Vault-Tec facility. But remember, while you've been safe inside your vault for the past few years, other people haven't been so lucky. Society on the outside has probably changed, and you should be prepared for a variety of possible scenarios. The area around your vault could be populated by cannibalistic mutants, gigantic insects, or maybe even feral children who have enslaved all the grown-ups. Who knows what kind of kooky civilization has formed, but the important thing is that you learn to roll with the punches. Remember, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and you'll get along just fine with everyone you meet.
On October 23rd, 2077, the nightmares became all too real when the Great War commenced. Blinding light ignited the sky, and people ducked and took cover as they had been taught, cowering under whatever they could, hoping that if they kept their eyes closed and remained still, that the merciless flames would pass them by. They hid beneath desks at school, under cars on the street, and behind desks at work. Perhaps a few were in their beds when the flash appeared on the horizon, and perhaps they drew their blankets over their head like children, hoping that the searing pain was just a bad dream. The ballyhooed tactic of duck and cover proved ineffective against armies that no longer cared about winning. Mutually self-assured destruction was the goal, and the American and Chinese exceeded it in spades. Hundreds of millions of people lost their lives within minutes, and billions more died over the days to come as radioactive fallout settled over entire continents. The fallout muddied the oceans, clouded the sky, and sunk deep into the soil. Those who happened to be in the right place at the moment the bombs fell managed to survive. These lucky few formed the primitive tribal societies that struggled for survival in the years immediately following the war. Hidden from those tribal bands were another group of survivors, those who had been selected for Project Safe House. 100,000 people fortunate enough to have been offered shelter inside impregnable survival shelters called vaults, created by the Vault-Tec Corporation. Pure gene pool, uncontaminated by radiation or exposure to virus-borne mutagens. There are plenty of interested parties who want to get their hands on a fresh supply of pure-strain humans who have yet to be exposed to the harsh wasteland. But that is a story for another day. Ed was chosen by the Overseer, a paragon who had no peer, a champion who'd never lost a fight. Well, old Ed walked out of Vault 13 with extra ammo and a full canteen. To the west, he could see a natural light. Ed left the cave, but to his surprise, the sun burned his skin and blinded his eyes. He stumbled back to Vault 13's outer door. He discovered he wasn't alone. The giant rats ate him right down to the bone, and his remains stayed there on the cold stone floor. No one knows what became of old Ed. They assumed he was stone cold dead. Years later, Deathclaws came and dragged his bones away. Next to leave would be the old vault dweller, a tale known well to this storyteller. But that is a story for another day.